welcome everyone. I'd like to welcome you today to our webinar, which we're titling Think Big. And we're going to cover a little bit about what's new in the v2022 release that just came out at the end of April. And we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to preview a little bit of our new content downloader that's coming out later on in June. My name is Cindy Maple. I'm the product manager for our office products. There's a couple of other people on the call that will be taking questions, so please feel free to type your questions into the question area, and they'll be able to provide answers to you. We'll also hopefully have some time for live questions and answers at the end of each section at the end of the presentation. Our agenda today is we're going to take a pretty in-depth look at what is new in 2020 Office v2022. And then, like I said, towards the end, I'm also going to give you a preview of what's coming in our 2020 content downloader v2.0. So our 2020 Office version 2022 came out at the end of April. It's our annual release. And in that release, we were able to update the CAD engines for 2020 CAP and 2020 CAP Complete. We also made some enhancements to 2020 CAP Complete that will make it a little more, I'll say, approachable for new people that are new to CAD in general. So we've added a new basic workspace, and I'm going to go into detail on each one of these. And we've added a simplified CAD ribbon and a simplified 2020 Office ribbon. And those are basically in there to allow you to create a project without having to dig into the depths of everything that we have in 2020 Complete. We've got a new way to show you how to insert pre-drawn windows and doors. We've got some preset layout tabs and also some preset printing that I'm going to go over with you. So what's new with our CAD engine updates? As you know, 2020 CAP runs on AutoCAD, and we've updated that to support AutoCAD 2023. And we've got a couple of links here, and I think Vanessa is going to put those in the chat as well to let you kind of peruse what's new in AutoCAD 2023. It's a mature platform, and there's always new things in there, and there are things that will appeal to one user versus another. So I invite you to go in and look at those on your own. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the 2020 CAP Complete additions that have been made to our CAD system. And some of these have been requested by customers, and some of these are just things that are coming as the product matures. The first addition is MV Hide, and MV Hide allows you to print viewports in hidden lines, regardless of how they appear on the screen. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's say you're setting up viewports, you can now use the MV Hide command to hide those viewports when you're printing. You can also use the Save All command, which allows you to save all open drawings in one step. So if you have multiple drawings open and you're ready to close down, you can save those all in one step instead of having to save each drawing individually. There's been the addition of associative arrays. So CAP Complete has had arrays, so you can do rectangular and polar arrays, but associative arrays allow the objects within an array to keep their relationships. So if you want to edit things like the pattern or the spacing or the location of certain things, it makes that a little bit quicker and easier. So I invite you to go in and take a look at that. And then the last two on the list, in CAP Complete now allows you to create what it calls CAD standards. So you can configure a standards file for your company to increase the drawing consistency throughout, meaning that if you use a certain text style or a certain text style or certain dimension styles, you can set those up as a standard file and you can configure those for your entire company. In addition to that, you can also check those standards. So there's a check standards command that allows you to basically look at your drawing and report any violations in that drawing to your standards, and then suggest fixing to those standards. So those are two very powerful things, especially if you're in a large dealership, that you can standardize on those things. Now I'm going to take us into 2020 CAP, and that's where most of our changes have taken place in version 2022. So in CAP Complete, we've introduced several new things. As I talked about earlier, we introduced a new 2D drafting and annotation basic workspace. And what this is really we have a simplified home ribbon that contains the most common CAD commands. And we also have a simplified 2020 Office ribbon. I'm going to show you a little bit about the dynamic block palette that allows you to insert pre-drawn windows and doors as dynamic blocks, which allows you to edit them quickly and easily. We've now added preset layout tabs to popular paper sizes and viewport configurations. So if you always use an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, you're going to find this is very easy. It also allows the beginning user not to have to know everything about paper space and model space to be able to create quick printouts. We've also added some customizable title blocks and some easy printing settings to make printing a little bit more simpler for that beginning user. So let's talk about 2D drafting and annotation basic workspace. Basically what this workspace does, and I'm going to show you that in a second, it highlights the basic commands necessary to complete a design project. So I'll show you once I get into the product exactly what that does. But this will be available to every CAP Complete user, and it can be accessed just by changing the drawing workspace. So if you're new to CAD and you're not really sure how to do that, I'm going to show you that in a minute. The 2D drafting and annotation basic workspace only contains ribbons, so there's no toolbars or pull down menus by design, and that's because we want to make the interface a little bit easier for someone new to the application. Don't worry though, we haven't changed our existing 2D drafting and annotation workspace. So if you've been using the tool for a while, you'll find that very comfortable. And then new users always can switch between those workspaces and find more advanced commands easily. So let me go over into CAP Complete. This will look familiar to you. And as you can see right now, I'm in the 2D drafting and annotation workspace. And there's a couple of places in here that you can change your workspace. One is up here and one is down here at the bottom in the settings. I can set my workspace down here. But for this demonstration, I'm going to set it from here, and I'm going to change this to 2D drafting and annotation basic. But before I do so, I just want to show you that on the ribbon, there's about 7 different places and lists of commands that are CAD commands. So these all belong to the CAD system. The 2020 Office ribbon belongs to us, and this contains all the most common commands that are used to use CAP Complete. So let me switch to the basic workspace, and you'll quickly see that by changing the workspace, I've simplified the interface a bit. So if I go to Home, what Home does is it contains all the most common CAD commands that you need to create and modify a workspace. When I go to the 2020 Office ribbon, you'll notice that that too is shortened, and it contains all the most common things you do. So like creating a new standard or sending items to a custom catalog, they're all here. And what we've kind of hidden away is the more advanced features, or also any manufacturer specific features we've kind of hidden away and made those made the interface easier for you to look at. So if you look at, let me switch that back again real quick. So here's the standard view, which as you can see, we've got toolbars and we've got pull down menus in some cases, and we've got ribbons. But if I switch that to basic, I can then get a simpler view. And as you notice, my Explorer is still there, and all the things that you're used to seeing are still there. But some of the more advanced features are hidden. The other thing that we did is we we changed our model space and we changed the settings in model space. So we've set our units. Our units are now set to architectural units. Prior to this, they were set at decimal. So if you've run into that. And the other thing is we've kind of set limits here to make it easier for someone that's new to the software to come in and insert an item from the Explorer and have that item come in at a much smaller scale. And part of the reason was that would come in, depending on how you were set up, that would come in very large in previous versions, and we wanted to make sure that this was easy for a beginning user just to open it up and begin working. The next thing I'm going to show you is our dynamic block palette. And what the dynamic block palette allows you to do is insert pre-drawn windows, doors, and double doors. Because when a new user is coming in and they're trying to create a drawing, I mean, there's a couple of ways to do this. One, they could get the drawing from the architect, but let's say I'm migrating from, I used to be a Giza user and now I'm going in here. I want to make CAD a little more approachable and be able to insert walls, doors, and windows. So let me show you how that works. If you look here, we've got a new command on the palette, on the ribbon called Dynamic Palette. When I click on Dynamic Palette, and I'm gonna switch over here to my walls drawing, which is just an example drawing that I've drawn, and I'm gonna zoom into this corner. I have some things in here that allow me to easily insert insert doors and windows. For those of you that are used to using CAD, you'll know that in CAP and in CAP Complete, inserting a door is a multi-step process. So what the dynamic block palette allows you to do is bring in your door, and I can insert it on the wall. And then as a new user, all I need to do is know that I need to trim this wall. So I can find my trim command on the menu. I can select the two parts I want to trim, and suddenly I have a door in my drawing. The nice thing about dynamic blocks is if I click on that door and I right click and go to my properties menu, I can also control a lot of things about that door. So I can change the door size if I want to. I can change the wall thickness that I've inserted it on. I can also come in here and I can change the hinging from right to left, which is pretty cool. And I can also change the door swing from inside to outside. And I can do that all using properties. This isn't real popular in commercial drawings, but I can also change the door swing of that door. I can make it a 45-degree angle on the door swing. And all of those things you can do as a beginning designer. As a beginning CAP Complete user, you can start putting these items in. Same thing with a double door. I can bring in a double door and I can insert it onto my wall, and I again have properties, and I can choose different things about my door here. So if I want to change that door swing to be outside, I can do that. If I want to change the opening angle, I can do that. If I want to change the size of the door, I can do that also by changing these values in here. So just wanted to take a few minutes to show you this. And as you can imagine, those that have been using CAD for a while know that it takes a lot of learning to actually draw a door. You have to draw the doors and the arcs and whatever. The next thing we've done is we've set some preset layout tabs. And as I mentioned before, we've set these to popular sizes. So if you typically create output in letter, legal, or 11 by 17, you're going to find these pretty powerful. We've also set some of the paper sizes in the layout tabs to be single viewport, and we've set others to be 2 viewports. And especially for our users that may be coming from Giza, this is a great way to could replace vignette plot, because I can now show a plan view and a 3D view in my same drawing. I also want to mention that all of our viewports in the 2 viewport layouts are set for MV hide, so they should hide automatically when you're printing, and they're also set to 3D view. So let me go in here, and I've got got a presentation drawing already set up here. So in model space, let me turn my properties off just so you can see this a little better. And I'll turn the dynamic blocks off at this point. So you can see I have a drawing pulled in now and set up. So I have this drawing in 2D, and then I just created a copy in 3D because I want to be able to show both of them. And you'll notice that our CAD Complete DWT is now updated to have all of these different letter and legal and 11 by 17 drawings in them. Now the ones I just clicked through are single viewport. These are very good for showing a plan view of the drawing. And then when I get into the 2 viewports, let's say letter, you can see that I can also print this with a 2D drawing on one side and a 3D drawing on the other. And this was what I was saying about this viewport here. Even though it's not showing it hidden lines, I can always go in here and hide those lines. But if I want those lines to print hidden, I need to set that MV hide command on the viewport itself. So we think that you're going to find this very, very helpful to just get started without having to know. Now these can all be modified, and if it's something that you want a larger viewport or you want to change them, you can do that as well. The next thing that's kind of related to that is we've now, and as part of our template, provided you with customizable title blocks. So I'm going to go back into that drawing that I was just in, and you can see that these title blocks are set up on every page. And they're also set up that as attributes. So if I double click on here, I can very easily add things like my project name. So this is Cindy's project. And you can see that changing on the title block itself, or maybe the date that I've worked on this. So today's date is May 25th, 26th. And you can see that these get populated in the title block itself. So maybe this is basically for people that want to use the title block. Obviously, there's more advanced ways that you can customize the title block for your dealer. If you notice here in the middle, this whole prepared by section is not an attribute. This is actually text. And this is so that you can put your own company logo in. This is not going to change on every project. So you can put your company logo in and your address and phone number and all your credentials here. If you do not like title blocks and you don't want to use the title block, all of the title blocks are on their own layer, and that can be turned off, and the printout or the layout can be adjusted at that point too. So those are all there for you to use or not use. It's up to you. And just a reminder, I'm not going to go into showing you this, but there's a couple of ways you can create your own, your dealer's own template. So what you modify this, you could save it as a DWT file that can be reused on all your projects. The other thing you can do is you could actually, and we don't recommend this as much, but if you save this to the CAD Complete DWT, it'll come up every time this way as well. It will overwrite what we have. So if you say, certain things you don't use. So let's say I go in here and I never use 11 by 17, I could just delete these. And then I could resave this to our CAD Complete DWT, and then those wouldn't come in again. The other way to do that is to save those. Is a better way to do it actually, is to save it to your own name. And the reason is then when we install the next version, we're not overwriting with ours all the time. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here for a minute, and we'll go to the next thing I want to show you, which is simplified printing. So along with what we've done is one of the things that I get feedback from new users often is, plotting is very kind of scary. I'm used to just setting it up and printing it. So what we did in here is we preset a print to PDF, and that preset is set up on the paper size and orientation of our layout tabs. So let me go back in here a minute, and let's go back to that 2022 viewport layout tab I had. So I have letter landscape here. And if I want to print in here, I can go up to the print button, and you'll notice that we have already set some of these, we have already provided values in here. So I'm going to do a monochrome print. It's going to be print to PDF for an 8.5 by 11 paper and you can, it's oriented in a landscape view. And then we've also set the offsets to make sure that when I hit the preview, that when you see the preview come up, that it's set up automatically to be centered and appear on your paper the way you would like it to appear. And that's true for all of the different layout tabs. So we try to take some of the mystery out of printing and plotting because that can be a bit overwhelming for a new user. So you'll notice in here that there are things that, you could set this to your own printer if you want. You can fit to the paper, you can set this print to a specific scale, or you can just have it center on the paper. That's all available in here, but we've just simplified it a bit. So if you just want to print what you have on the drawing to a PDF, you can do that. What that allows a new user to do is all they have to worry about is going into the viewport and changing the view that they want to see. So if maybe I just want to see this part of my workspace station, I can go in here and I can change the view in there. And then as easy as that, I can go to print and preview. I'm not going to build an actual file now, but I want you to be able to see that once I change that view, it'll show in whatever I print out at that point. Okay. Okay, so just a few things to think about with CAD Complete. We're starting to see some people coming from Giza moving to CAD Complete, and some new CAP users, people new to CAD, moving to CAD Complete. So some of the things to think about is CAD Complete's a little better able to handle larger and more complex projects. So if you have more workstations or whatever, it might be a good tool for you to look at. You can place and rotate furniture a little faster and easier because you can use the mouse to a greater degree in CAD Complete. Also, the kind of on the same lines, you can zoom in and out using the mouse, and you can also CAD Complete has a command that Giza does not have, which is pan. So you can easily navigate a project by picking a point on the project and kind of dragging your page to see the rest of it. You can selectively undo and redo multiple commands or a specific command. And then the other big point is panel builder. And although that, may sound different because Giza uses Frame Designer, panel builder allows you to reuse your panel configurations across multiple projects. It has a little more updated visual and intuitive interface. And it also stores your results in a custom catalog, and custom catalogs can be shared across between people and across projects to store panel configurations, standards, and specials in case you want to reuse those. I'm going to pause now and see if anybody has any questions specific to what we just covered on version 2022.
No, Cindy, it's looking great. We did have a couple questions come in, but some of them you answered as you were showing. But the one outstanding question that came in was regarding the dynamic blocks. And they were wondering, do those come in on a set layer or just the layer that was current at that time?
They come in on the current layer. So you have complete control of that. Yeah. Yep.
Super. And then just a reminder for everybody, we are recording the session, so don't worry if you miss something or want to go back, we'll be sending out this recording next week. That was it.
Okay. Thanks, Vanessa. So what we've done so far is gone over the new things that we've added in 2020 Office version 2022. You should already have received that, and hopefully most of you have already installed that now. So you can go in and begin looking at some of those things. That was released near the end of April of 2022. And that's available in 2020 account. So if you're looking for the download, you can download that automatic, or you can download that through 2020 account. Now what I want to talk about is something that's coming soon, and that's our 2020 content downloader. Now, some of you may be scratching your head saying, wait, you already have a content downloader, and you're absolutely right. We introduced a content downloader about 2 years ago that a lot of people have become to depend on, that allows them to download all of the content rather than be able to, rather than install from the DVDs. They can download it online. There was a couple of problems with that. It helped a lot of people, but some people didn't have enough disk space or enough internet broadband to make that really be a benefit to them. So we went back and we've revisited Content Downloader. So I will call this Content Downloader 2.0. And I want to show you a couple of things. Now, this has not been released yet. It's coming soon. Our target is to release this with the June data and the June 15th data coming up. Some of you have probably piloted this because we've had it available for the last few months in a pilot version. However, hopefully I have some even newer things to show you on that today. So I'm going to, first of all, I want to show you when this is released, it's going to appear in 2020 account. And we basically are revamping our catalog portion of 2020 account. And if you look here, it'll say the 2020 content downloader. The new downloader is going to allow you to choose one, multiple, or all manufacturers to download. And then you can choose the location that it's downloaded to, and then use the existing installer to install it just like you do today. So when this is ready, it will be available here for you to be able to download. And one of the changes that we're making is this is available to your admins as the DVDs, the people that receive the DVDs today, but it's also available to anybody that is a user. So you might want to check with your admin, especially if you have an IT department and they've been managing your content. You probably want to check with them to make sure how they want you to do this. But for those of you that that have been installing from DVDs, you're going to be able to use this in the near future. So I'm going to switch gears here a minute. Just bear with me. One of the changes with the new downloader is that now you need to log in. So you will use the same login that you use today to get into your 2020 software. So I have a special login for this demo, and you'll see that once you, and it didn't like bear with me a second. There we go. Once you sign in, then you remember you've downloaded it, and I've had to click on the executable itself to execute the command to run the content downloader. So part of this will look familiar, but when you get into the downloader, it provides manufacturer catalogs and material suppliers for download, and you can choose to begin a new download, or you can continue an existing download, which I'll come back to in a minute and explain a little bit more of that. So this is one of the changes that you're going to see. This screen allows you to select the manufacturers that you want to download. And if you remember, or if you've been using our current downloader, that's set up, there's a new executable every month, and that's set up to download all of the content. With Content Downloader 2.0, you're going to be able to use the same downloader every month, and it will allow you to select the different manufacturers that you want to use. So let's say that you're looking for a certain manufacturer. You can filter that and find it and select it here. You can also display this. I have it displayed as a grid, so you can see all the logos of the manufacturers, but you can also display this as a list if that's easier for you to see. And the other thing you'll see here is that the downloader actually looks at what's installed on your machine and it pre-selects those items for you. So it's only gonna, month to month, you will not have to reselect anything unless you want something new. So let's say you're gonna begin to sell a new brand, then you can select a new brand, right? And you can have it download that. So I'm just gonna select, I'm gonna look for Kimball here. I'm gonna select that. I'm going to go back. I don't have to do this, but it's completely up to you how you want it to be displayed. But if I go down here and they're all alphabetical, if I go down here to Kimball at this point, you'll see that that's now selected. And it tells you at the bottom that how many manufacturers I have selected and how big my download is. So you can gauge what you download at what time, at what time based on your free space or your bandwidth. Okay. Remember just a second ago, I was talking about it pre-selecting things for you. Some of you are on a network. So if your IT person is installing from a network, they're going to want to go in here and identify where that location is. Sometimes we have a default location, but sometimes each dealer changes where they're going to install this and what network place that they want to install it for. So once you put that in there, that will pre-select things for you as well. Okay, then I go to next. And these are all the material suppliers that Visual Impression uses. And it's the same, it's display as a grid or display as a list. And you'll see a lot of these gray logos here. And all that means, there's nothing different about the gray logo. It just means that that's a logo that we're working on getting from the manufacturer that's not in the system yet. So I want to go ahead and select that. And then what I'm going to see is it'll say, okay, you've selected 29 manufacturers and 18 selected material manufacturers. Okay. I'm going to go and for a total of 36 gigabytes to download. Then when I select next, it's going to ask me to select where I want it to download, right? So I'm going to create a new location. So, whoops. So I select my Cindy test location and I say okay. And once I start to download, it'll start downloading that to that location. Okay. I'm not going to go through, in the interest of time, I'm not going to let it continue to download, but I also want to point out here that this also has all the controls that our previous downloader had, which means you can cancel this at any time. If I cancel it, it'll ask me, do you want to save what was already downloaded so that I could resume that at another time? And so at this point, I'm going to say, yes, I want to keep that. And it'll save those away for me if I want to cancel the download. I can also pause and resume the download as I need to as well. Okay. So I'm going to switch over for just a minute here. And I'm going to go and show you, I did this download prior to the meeting, and I'm going to go into May content. So you'll see that once the downloader is finished, basically it builds a file structure very much like what you're used to seeing when you pop in your first DVD. And the process to install at this point is the same. So you either do your, use the auto run, or you can use the setup exe. I'm going to use the setup exe, and it's going to show me, it's actually going to go into modify, but it will show me that when I'm installing how many items how many manufacturers I've downloaded, and give me the opportunity even to select from there, once I've downloaded them, how many do I want to install. Another point that I want to make here is we are still using our DSA zips for mid-month updates, and the downloader will also notice if you've installed a manufacturer in the in a mid-month. As long as you're using the DSA zip, it'll know that as well. So you'll see that my installer came up. It asked me to, do I want to modify? And you can see that I can do the same thing with the installer as I've done before. So now if I go in here, you'll see I have 27 different manufacturers in here because I already had 2 of them installed. Sorry, I already had some before. So it shows me all of the catalogs that I selected, right? And it will install those in the normal way that it does now. So we think that you're going to find this, I'm going to abort this installation. We think you'll find this very helpful. The big thing to remember is that the content downloader is designed to download the content, and you still use the regular installer to install the content. So again, the content downloader 2.0 is coming in, it's targeted to come in mid-June. This is secure, so you're going to log in using your 2020 account credentials, and what that tells us is who you are. So if you, sorry, not so much who you are, but it tells us that that you have our software and you're able to download that content. You can choose to download single, multiple, or all manufacturers, as you saw, by selecting and checking off the ones that you want to include. You can see down here at the bottom the total download size as you select manufacturer. So you can go back and forth if you want to, download 3 at a time, because that's all your free space and broad, your bandwidth will allow you. You can do that. Your installed manufacturers are going to be pre-selected. You can pause and resume the download to fit into your schedule. So if you start a download at 4 o'clock and you need to leave at 5, you can pause that download and have it pick right back up the next day when you get in. It will automatically try to restart if you have an internet interruption. So it goes through a series of steps where it keeps trying to get that download reinitiated. So if you're downloading something overnight and you leave your computer, it'll automatically try to restart if the internet is interrupted. Like you saw, you can cancel the download and keep what is already downloaded, or you can delete that and start over. It's completely up to you. And again, it uses our current installer. So I'm going to pause here. I know I went one slide too many, but I'm going to pause here, Vanessa, and see if we have any questions. I know that I went through that kind of fast.
No, it was good. You should see there are definitely some celebrations in the chat window. There's some people that
Okay,
are
good.
super happy about Content Downloader, so very exciting. But there are quite a few questions. So first question, I have someone who says, how long does it typically take to install? Mine seems to happen very quickly, so I'm not sure it's working properly.
Depends on how quickly is quickly. When I download all of the catalogs and I install all catalogs, it takes about 20 minutes, I would say, for the installation. It takes longer for the download, but it takes about 20 minutes to install everything. So if you're talking about it's done in seconds, we probably need to look deeper into that through tech support.
Great. Okay, and then this is probably the question on everyone's mind. Once I do the version 2022 update and I'm up and running, what disks do I need to keep on hand just in case?
So that's a good question, and we're gonna document some best practices. But I've been in a lot of dealerships where people have been putting their content on the shelf, right? They take the DVDs and they put them on the shelf. What we're gonna recommend is probably getting an external hard drive, and every time you download, when you download the manufacturers that you're using, we would recommend that you copy that file location that I just showed you onto your hard drive so that you have a backup of that if you need it. Now, how much of that do you need to keep? Like, I don't know if that's part of the question that, do I need 2 months or 3 months. That's going to depend on the dealership and the projects that you're working on. So hope I got that question. I hope I understood that question right, Vanessa.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And then I've had this question kind of asked a few different ways, but can we download the catalogs to a shared folder so that multiple people have access to it?
I believe you can. I'm going to ask a question back, and that is, if you're doing that, I would guess there's a shared situation, and then there's also, there's a lot of people using a network, and everyone then ties into the network and gets their content. That one I want to research a little bit more, Vanessa. So if we
Okay.
could get that person's name, we could follow up afterwards and make sure that we're answering the right thing.
Perfect. Yeah, and as you guys ask questions, we'll be able to download a log of this so we can always follow up. Or if I missed any, because a bunch just came in as I'm talking.
Okay.
How about, here's another one. If we only downloaded a few catalogs, but we already have other catalogs on our computer, will it delete those other catalogs?
It will not delete those other catalogs. Boy, it should not delete those. You should be able to download and install, because and this is going to get confusing, but each download should go in its own directory. So let's say I just downloaded 2 manufacturers, and then I install those 2 manufacturers. That's fine. When I download the next time, the installer, not the downloader, but the installer is going to look at that and say, you've already got catalogs installed. Do you want to add to those, or do you want to overwrite those? And that happens in the installer, like when I stopped what I was showing, but it's a modify at that point. It's what the installer sees as a modify. You want to modify what's there.
Super. Another very popular question, when is Downloader 2.0 going to be available?
We're targeting Downloader 2.0 to be available in the same time frame that we would release our June downloader. What we want to be able to do is go live. So that would be around June 15th. We're still working on, what we're working on now is a couple of things. We're working on being able to know that we're working on putting all the right information in 2020 account to allow everyone to use the downloader. So that's part of it. The other thing that from a development standpoint we're working on is we don't want you to have to download this downloader all the time. We're working on an updater that updates updates. If there's a new version available, it automatically updates and you don't have to do anything, much like what our conference things do, right? It automatically updates them. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, super. Good, good. And I have some more celebrations in the chat. Great, now I can have more desk space. Again, if I missed your question, sorry, we will follow up with you. But hopefully, yeah, this is a game changer. This is very exciting to see.
And we'll look for more information coming on the downloader as we get closer to a live date. There'll be more information, but I wanted to take the opportunity of this webinar to introduce it. And yeah, okay.
Super, perfect. All right, if you want to go to the next couple slides, Cindy, that is a perfect segue because as Cindy said, that is targeted for mid-June, which is a perfect time of celebration because NeoCon is right around the corner. So a couple things, every time we do a new course, a new webinar, any updates on anything, we are now including that in our 2020 training platform. So if you haven't checked that out recently, we've added quite a bit of new content there. You'll notice we've got over 45 courses and webinars. Some of the courses are paid courses, but many of the webinars are included with your subscription. So there's no additional cost there. The only thing is the first time you go out there, if you haven't used it yet, you do have to register for it. It just takes the quick email and password, and then you should be good to go. So just want to make sure everyone knew about that. you can either take note of that link on the screen or just right inside your software, go up to the help menu and there is an option for training. And then next slide, like I said, we're looking forward to next month with NeoCon. We're gonna be at NeoCon on the 7th floor, so definitely swing by our booth if you're going to be there. If you want to check out some of the different events that we're going to be hosting, definitely take a minute and look at 2020spaces.com/NeoCon. On Monday and Tuesday, we're going to have theater presentations, but Tuesday we are super excited because we are going to celebrate you, and we're going to have a VIP event right in our booth. So you know what that means. We're going to have some good drinks, some goodies, some swag, and some great conversation. I'm super excited because I have the honor to host a small panel with Sid Meadows and Alexandra Cephos. So we're going to talk about technology, but we're also going to talk about just the business in general. So I hope you have a chance to join us on Tuesday from 1 to 3 during the show. And then if you're not going to NeoCon, don't worry, we are recording all of our theater sessions that we have going on. So the week after NeoCon, we are going to be doing a virtual option. You can check out and register for that at 2020spaces.com/NeoCon/register. That will happen just on one day on June 21. So there's going to be some great content, basically our theater presentations. You're going to have the option to chat with our team, and we'll also, of course, have a great promo if you're looking to add any licenses. And then before we wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. Again, if we didn't get to your question, we'll follow up with you, but you can also continue this conversation out on our Facebook group. If you join our Facebook group, it will ask you a couple questions just to make sure that you are in the right place, but you can find us under 2020 Office Group over on Facebook. You guys, thanks again and stay tuned. Hopefully we see you at NeoCon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.